All right, welcome to my first guitar lesson video on YouTube. My name is Taylor. I've been playing guitar for about 20 years, and this is going to be a blues guitar lesson. Maybe you're intermediate, maybe you're beginner, maybe you're advanced in a different genre and you want to learn how to play blues. Well, blues is kind of like the foundation of a lot of American music. You can hear it even in pop music today. I think of, I guess this isn't a song of today, but I think of, give me one reason to stay. That song is a blues form. It says the same line twice, and then it says a line that rhymes with it. And it's the first 4 bars, the next 4 bars, and the last 4 bars, equaling 12 bars. So let's learn what the 12 bars are. We're going to start with the key of C. Here's a blues backing track. I made this track. I entitled it Medium Slow Regal Blues because I love B.B. King Live at the Regal. Check out B.B. King Live at the Regal if you haven't heard it already. It's beautifully awesome. I read somewhere Eric Clapton listens to it before he goes on stage. John Mayer listens to it before he goes on stage. I don't know if the camera can pick up Benny back here, but he is going to town. That's Benny the Chihuahua. He's going to settle in here in a sec, so then we can really dive into some songs. But let's talk about the 12-bar blues. I said 4 bars, and another 4 bars. That's 12 bars. So the first 4 are the 1 chord, the 4 chord, the 1 chord, the 1 chord. So if we're in the key of C, the 1 chord is C. If we're in C, the 4 chord is, well, we count up 4 notes, A, B, C, E, D, E, F, F. So we got the first 4 bars are C, F, and then C 2 more times. Okay? Then the next 4 are 4, 4, 1, 1, which is 4. Oh, I think Benny needs my help. Keep that in mind there. Here. Come here, buddy. Let me help you out. He's the only dog I know that can't put himself in a blanket, dude. Okay, so now we've got that out of the way. The first 8 bars are 1, 4, 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 1. And then the last 4 bars are 5, 4, 1, 5. There's tons of variations, but that's how we're going to think of it today. So it's 1, 4, 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 1, 5, 4, 1, 5. I know that's a lot of information, but let's boil it down. We got 1 is C, 4 is F, and 5 is G. We're going to now play those in that order. So I'm going to go just one note because this is a lead guitar lesson. Right? We're not going to do too much of chords. 1, 4, 1, 1, 4, 4, 1, 1, 5, 4, 1, 5. Okay, so that's the 12-bar blues in its distilled form. There's all kinds of different variations, like I said, but that's the one we're going to be talking about today. And this lesson's going to be on what I believe are called target notes or target tones. I never thought of it that way until later. A lot of my education has been just from listening, which is going to be part of this lesson. We're going to pull up some B.B. King and we're going to listen. Let's pull the track out. I'm going to play the first 12 bars. So there's an intro. We'll talk about the intro a little later. Okay? In this case, the intro, I started on the 5 chord. So basically, I'm starting on the 9th bar of the 12-bar blues. Okay? So there's a nice little intro. And you can feel it. Okay? You can feel it. Here comes the beginning. We're going to start on the root. That's C. And what's the next one? That's right. What's the next one? And again. Okay, the next 4 bars. 4. 4. Back to 1. For 2 more bars. Okay, so now that's 8 bars. Here comes the 9th bar. 5. 4. And listen how perfectly it goes, right? 1. And then 5. And it starts over. Right? Okay, I'm going to put some reverb on my guitar here. I like to add a little reverb. Oh yeah, right? Now we're in a cathedral. Now we're live at the Regal ourselves. So, if you can't play that quite good yet, if you're very, beginning to lead guitar, go ahead and just practice voicing those notes. It's the 8th fret on the D string, that's our C, the 8th fret On the G string, that's our F, and the 10th, let me start over. These are the 10th frets. 10th fret on the D string, 10th fret on the G string, 10th fret on the G string. Oh my gosh, I can't even talk. Dude, this is live. This is raw. This is one take. This is like, as the whole idea was as if I'm sitting down teaching somebody. And boy, do you make mistakes? Yes. So 10th fret, 12th fret, D, G, strings. Now you can just zoom in, slow down if you want to see exactly what I'm doing. You'll notice I'm using my ring finger. It doesn't matter what finger you use. In this case, those are the notes we want to start with. And then eventually, once you get the hang of that, we're going to try playing it on the beat. So why don't you try playing it with me? We're going to do the same thing we just did. 1. You can let it ring out. 4. 1. 1, 4, and the numbers I'm saying are the chords. This is the 4th chord, back to 1. You can try putting vibrato on it. 5. Maybe slow vibrato. Back to 1. Okay, now that we've done that, that's a chord tone. That's target tone. That's a target note. That's the root. Now each chord, now I say the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord, each of those chords has its own set of notes. I'm going to tell you them real quick. C, E, and G, that's the first note, the 3rd note, and the 5th note of the scale. Then the 4 chord is F, A, C. That's the 4th note, the 6th note, and the 1st note. Right, so there's already a common tone, what we call the C works over both. So let me show you what that sounds like. Well, let's do the G. The G is G, B, and D. Okay, so those are the notes. We're gonna go back. You don't have to memorize them right now. If you're way past this, stick with me. It'll get interesting. Okay, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play the 3rd each time around the block. Ready? And right. Right. I mean, come on, you can hear the beauty, right? The 3rd is known as the most colorful tone. Okay, now on this backing track, I noticed that sometimes I do the thing a little differently, so we're going to use that first time around the block as our starting point. Sometimes the first 4 bars of the 12-bar blues is just the 1. Okay, now we do 1, 4, 1, 1. I like that. They call that the quick change. Changes to 4 real quick, comes back, and that's not going to be on the test today. Don't worry. Okay, so we've done the 3rd. Now I want you to hear it with the 5th note of each chord played on the downbeat of each change. Ready? It's the same thing we're doing. Pause. I might have to cut this part out. Like Benny can't find his way out of the blanket either. So something to think about while we're playing. Listen to the relationship of the 5th over the chord. Listen to the relationship of the 3rd, of the root, all of that stuff. It's a really cool sound. Okay? We're going to back it up, and we're going to start that part over again in case in post I decide to cut out the barking dogs. Here we go. Now something to listen for is how each note I'm holding long, you can actually hold them short. Staccato, they call it. And that's going to be a better sound. Honestly, in the blues, if you cut your notes a little shorter by default, that's going to be a better way to go about it. Now, I want to do this again. This time, I'm going to play whatever note's closest. I'm going to start on the third of the C, and then I'm going to move around in the smallest jumps. You'll notice right now we're jumping. We're jumping pretty far away. What I want to do is what's called smooth voice leading, like a voice. A voice would stay close. Da, 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 da. They call that stepwise motion. We're only going to move one note because you'll notice an E in the C chord is real close to an F in the 4 chord or the F chord. And then we can go up to the 5th now of the C chord because that's 5th of the C is a G, and that G is in the key of C. There's all kinds of stuff. So I just want you to watch and listen as I smoothly run around the 12-bar blues, but I'm going to choose what scale degrees we use. If all these terms are going over your head, just write them down. We'll get back to them. Okay, I'm going to start on the 3rd and then go from there. Here we go. Slide. You can always slide a half step underneath for a little flavor. Okay. So these are little tiny things you can do. Nothing sounding terribly bluesy or terribly musical, but you just can hear how the notes react with the chords in your ear, and eventually you can learn like, oh, that's the 3rd. You can hear it. Oh, that's the 3rd. Oh, that's the 4th. That's the 5th. Okay, so those are scale tones. Or chord tones or target notes, whatever you want to call them. Those are notes of the chord. We're playing notes that make sense in the chord. You don't always have to do that, but for today's lesson 1, that's how we're going to do it. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is turn on my light. That's how raw this is, dude. 13 minutes in, now we turn on the light. Now you can really see. Hopefully I'll do some editing in post to turn that up, dude. This is all raw, baby. This is like you're at the lesson. Welcome. Let's do the minor pentatonic scale. Now, whether you're in blues in major like this or blues in minor, you can use the minor pentatonic scale. That might be weird. In fact, in other genres, it's like the only genre where you can play minor over major like this, and it sounds good. I don't know if that's true. Anytime I hear the minor blues scale being played, or the minor pentatonic, I use them interchangeably. There is a difference, but the minor pentatonic or the minor blues scale, anytime I hear that used in the major key, I think of the blues. So like if we're in this key, and songs are going like da 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 da, and then I hear da 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 da. That's blues to me. Michael Jackson does it a lot. Spots where it should be major, he makes it minor. A lot of people do it a lot. It's the blues. It's awesome. We're in the key of C, so the minor pentatonic is C. That's the 8th fret, right? Yes, that's where I got the 8th fret. 8th fret on the E, 11th fret on the E, 8th fret on the... Okay, I'm just going to shut up and watch. Zoom in if you need to. Slow down. That's 1 octave. Then we're going to continue up. Back down. Okay, that's like the number 1 thing everybody learns. You'll see it all the time. How do we use it over the 12-bar blues? It's interesting because you'll notice right here, I go to this note, which is the minor 3rd, but the chord has this note. So if we hit this note right at the beginning and we hold it long, it's going to sound raunchy. Listen. Listen to the relationship of these notes. Okay, right? A little weird. Now listen if I make it major. Okay, so a lot of times you'll hear something like this. You'll start on the minor and you'll slide up a half step to that major 3rd. Okay, now the basic way you can use this minor pentatonic scale but also play the right notes is to do a lick with those notes, but then end on one of the chord tones. So I'm going to do a lick and end on the root. Then I'm going to do a lick, and we're talking about the very first chord, the very first bar of 12 bars, okay? It's also the first, third, fourth, seventh, eighth, 11th bar as well. Those are all bars that have the one chord. And you can do stuff like this. Okay? I'm going to play minor pentatonic, but I'm going to end on a chord tone. Ready? Right? Now check this out. Here's another way to do it. Okay, hopefully right there you saw I'm doing different things. Most of that was over the one chord. What I did over the 5 and the 4 chord is just chord tones. We're not going to worry about the minor pentatonic just yet for that. Okay, so let's go now. That's the one chord. You can do a blues lick and then end on one of the chord tones. That's a 5 down there. Okay. Now the 5 and the 1 are in the scale. It's that third, the pesky third, right? Here's where this comes into play. The minor pentatonic scale really comes into its own on the 4 chord. The 4 chord, the notes of the scale are F, A, C. So this scale has an F, has an A, no it doesn't, that's G, has an F and a C, but what's really cool is since these are all blues chords, something I've neglected to talk about is there's more than just 1, 3, 5 of each chord. There's actually a juicy note called the 7th scale degree. So in the 4 chord, the 7th scale degree is also the same scale degree as the minor, the C minor third. So in this case, that's E flat. So what I'm essentially saying is the 4 chord with that 7, it's almost like a minor chord. So that's kind of why the C minor pentatonic will work even over that C major, because you go to that 4 chord and all of a sudden you're in minor. So the way I like to think about this, and I'm going to show you, is over the 1 chord, we play the major scale, or the major pentatonic if you want to call it that. The major pentatonic is C, D, E, G, A, and then back to C. And the minor is... Okay, so we've got the major and the minor. So over the 1 chord, we're going to play the C major pentatonic, or just notes of the C major chord, and then over the minor, or over the 4 chord, we're going to do the minor pentatonic. Here we go. The 5 chord. Let's just play some chord tones. Here's the 4 chord, so minor pentatonic. Then we slide up to that major note, okay? So now, we're not going to talk about the 5 chord because it only happens every so often. There's only 2 bars in there with a 5 chord. Everything else is the 1 or the 4. So let's talk about it again. I'm going to do another example. And I'm just going to play the major over the 1 and the minor over the 4, okay? Anticipated at that time. I did it beforehand. something I did in there that I didn't mean to do yet was play the dominant 7 of the C chord. So let's talk about each chord now with all 4 of the notes. The 1, the 3, the 5, and the 7th. That's what makes it blues. Okay, that's your first chord. The next chord is... and then the 5th chord. So something I neglected to do before is play all 12-bar blues with each chord 7th scale degree. Let's try it. Okay, here we go. 7th scale degree. I'm gonna hold them out so you can listen. Yeah. So, anytime I'm on one of those notes, I always think of the relationship to the tonic, the root pentatonic minor scale. So, if we're in the key of C, I'm going there 90% of the time, okay? I'm going there. And, of course, you can do actual licks. I've been trying my best not to do any actual, like, complicated stuff. I guess it's not... It depends on who you are, if that's complicated. If you're a beginner, that's insane. This is... For the first 2 to 5 years of guitar playing, that is a very complicated lick. But to like blues aficionados that I might be talking to out there, it's like nothing. But it's definitely something. So what I want to do now is go back to where we were talking about the major over the 1 and the minor over the 4. So we got the 1 chord, we're going to do this. And then the minor, we're going to do this. Okay, but I'm going to add the 7th in to the 1 chord. So our 1 chord is going to sound like this. Okay, those are the notes we can use. Okay, let's try it. We're going to get more complicated as we go. We're just getting started. All right. Okay, starting major. Ready? Then minor. Okay, so I kind of went a little crazy there. That's the next step, okay? So now we're talking about the major pentatonic over the 1, the minor pentatonic over the 4, all relating to C though, right? It's not like when we change to the 4 chord, now we're playing the F minor pentatonic. No, it's all C. We're relating everything to the root, okay? We've added this dominant note into the 1 chord, so now we've got this major sound with a little bit of a minor sound in there. What that is called is the Mixolydian scale or the dominant scale. Oops. Okay, the major scales: do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. The dominant scale: do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, te, do. Right? Te, do, baby. It's a flat 7. So let's not get too much more into that. What I want to do now is talk about that elusive 5 chord. Something really cool you can do over the 5 chord is actually the thing I just said not to do, which is shift the entire minor scale up to the 5 chord. So in this case, the G. So check this out. I'm going to talk our way through it, okay? So the first chord is major. 4 chord is minor. play in perfect time either. You can play ahead of the beat or behind the beat. Okay. Now we're going to G. Okay, now we're on the 4, so minor. Okay, now let me show you another way to do that. Let's just keep this going. So, first chord. This stays on the first chord. Okay, now we're on the 4. So we got 1 here, 4 here. Here's the 5. So I like to do the minor scale right here. Ready? 5 chord. Come on, dude. If you haven't caught on to anything thus far, that is the most important part of this whole thing. Is when you hit the 5 chord, just do the G minor pentatonic or the 5 chord minor pentatonic. It is such a beautiful move. We can even make it simpler and just do the minor pentatonic for the 1 chord and the 4 chord. Okay? This is more of a basic. You'll hear people doing this and you're kind of like, wow, you're not going to play the major there, but you don't have to. Okay? So watch this. This is minor pentatonic all the way through, and when we get to the 5 chord, I shift it up and keep on playing it. Okay? So here we go. We're taking out the major completely. I don't know what that lick was, but... Okay. We're on the 1, but I can still go. And the 4 comes, and we're just going to keep that scale going. Okay, haven't done any major scale stuff yet. All minor scale. Here comes the 5 chord. The 5 chord again, you can go. Okay, maybe not the cleanest or the coolest lick I've done this video, but it works. So you've got chord tones, we've got minor pentatonics. So let's talk. We've talked basically. We've done all chord tones. We've talked as if we've done all minor pentatonic scales. Now, obviously, we've combined them a little bit, but now let's combine them to its fullest. Okay, so I'm gonna find this spot here, and I'm gonna play. I'm gonna find my chord tones, because for example, let me show you what's left out. The 4 chord, if we just do the minor scale, it leaves out the 3rd of the 4 chord, and if we do the minor pentatonic just over the 1, it leaves out the 3rd of the 1. So we're missing out on a lot of juicy stuff. So I'm gonna think minor pentatonic over the 1 and the 4, but I'm gonna throw in their 3rd collectively, okay? So now, there's a lot of ways to think about this. You could think about the 3rd of the F is also the 6th note of the C, and the 6th note is part of the C major pentatonic. You can think of it that way, or you can just think, we're going to be playing our basic scale. But anytime I know what chord we're on, I'm going to throw in the 3rd. Same goes for the G. If we're on a G chord, but I want to hit the 3rd of that chord, it's B. It's not in the scale. So for example, it'd be like, right? How cool is that? You get that 3rd. So the 1 and the 5s of each thing are covered because the scale has the 1 and the 5s. A major or minor scale has the same 1, the same 5. It's the 3rd that changes. In fact, it's the 3rd that tells you if you're in major or minor. If it's a major 3rd, you're in major. If it's a minor 3rd, you're in minor. If you want to comment below, if you got some questions, also like and subscribe if you want more of these lessons. That would mean a lot. I forgot to do that earlier on, and YouTube suggests I should, so I will. Please like, subscribe, and most importantly, comment if you have any questions, because it is hard to teach a non-existent person. There's usually a back and forth in a guitar lesson. A lot of questions, and I know as I'm playing, I can think, oh, but how are they going to think about this, blah, 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 blah. All the terms are confusing. So, anyway, we're going to play just the minor pentatonic scale, the C minor pentatonic scale, and we're going to add in 3rds any chance we get, okay? So, Also, when we get to the 5, it's going to be the G minor pentatonic. And we'll still add the third of G, which is B. So, here comes the 1. We're playing in minor though, because screw it. Let's send it. Throw in a major third. Oh, here comes this next one. Throw in that third. Throw in the third up top. Okay, here comes... Land on the third, right? Land on the flat 7. And then we're gonna go back to the C major scale, but we're gonna stay on the minor. Didn't throw in the third there. That was just a chord tone on G, and then back to... Right, there's some thirds. Okay, we're gonna do it again. Remember, this time around the block, it stays on the 1 chord for 4 times, so it goes... That was the third of the 4 chord. Repeat stuff. Now, the reason we're talking about all this stuff before we dive into just how to actually play some of this stuff is because it helps so much when you think about it. Like, for example, if I know a lick is this, I know I'm going 4, minor third, 1, 1, so I know where I can use that because I know where all these notes are, right? Also, eventually, it's just going to be in your ear, and a lot of people who don't know theory just have played so much that it's just, they know it, right? It's in their ear. So, for that example, that would work over the 1 or the 4 chord. But maybe if I was trying to get that to go to the 5 chord, I might go... And then down to the 4. Okay, so now let's talk about the actual stuff that makes it blues. Repeating phrases. When you play a phrase you like and you can tell where it's going to go, repeat it. So we're going to slow it down, we're going to start over, we're going to do the same 12 bars, except for I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to play a lot of C notes here. In fact, watch how many C's I can get away with. We're in the key of C. I mean, come on, right? Let's find a note in the G chord. Okay, that brought to my attention another lesson. Space. You gotta leave a lot of space. You'll find at the beginning you're just gonna be playing. In fact, the first time you play that over the right chord, it feels amazing. You're gonna keep wanting to do it. And you're gonna have your final note of each phrase. You need it to be a period, not a dot, 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 dot. That helps so much. I mean, you can do what you want to do. In fact, sometimes holding that note for as long as you can is kind of a cool thing to do, right? I do it all the time. Put some vibrato on the end of it. But a really cool way, a really cool way to do this is to put a little pause on the end of it, okay? So now that we've got to basically the end of this, the beginning, the intros we're doing on here is a 5, 4, 1, 5. So it's the last 9 bars. I do want to talk about the outros because the outros are pretty cool. They're like a variation of the turnaround. So for example, the last 9 bars are 1, 4, 1, 5. But if it's your very last one, you may have heard this kind of a sound. It's 1, 4, 1, and then a half step up, and then back to 1. Now, I just recently learned, after 20 years of playing guitar and playing the blues, this chord shares the third note and the seventh note of the 5 chord. So for example, the B and the F. So watch, if I go, I could go, or they just flip-flop, they invert them. For example, so that what that means is the half step up from C is D flat, and the 7th of D flat is, we'll just call it B right now, okay? And the 3rd of that D flat is F. Now, if we're playing the G chord, the 3rd is B and the flat 7 is F, so they invert. It's called a tritone substitution. It's a very jazz-centric thing, but it turns out they do that in blues, that blues ending that you hear. Here's an advanced variation. Go out to a blues show, listen to a blues band, go to a blues jam, you'll hear that ending. If you know, something that bothers me about a lot of backing tracks, and what led me to make this Regal backing track myself, is a lot of the backing tracks don't have the ending. They just go, they just do the 9th and the 10th, 11th bar, and 12th bar of the 12-bar blues, and then they just, like, that is the worst thing ever. It's the most painful thing I've ever heard. And the tracks are good. These are real players. Like, how are you that good, yet you don't put a blues ending on it? What are we even doing here? So, we've come to the end. Hopefully you've gathered something. There's going to be some questions. Go ahead and leave them in the comments. I'll try to do a better job as I make these videos. Thank you so much for watching. I'm just going to play through this 3-minute track. I'm going to not try to think about anything I taught. I'm just going to play blues. See if you can find some of the stuff I'm doing. Okay? Let's go. something like that, dude. That's pretty fun, man. I wasn't thinking too much. I played some wrong notes. I even started playing the D minor pentatonic on accident. I literally just lost my spot. It's going to happen sometimes, man. And I played a full weekend of blues and I still, kind of played a little bit of a wrong note there. Things to take away. Chord tones. Learn your chord tones of the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord, because this is just one key. There's 12 keys. Key of A, you're going to have to learn all the notes for A. Luckily, guitar, it would all apply. It just goes down on the 5th fret instead of the 8th fret. But you still want to know your notes because you're going to be talking to keyboard players, harmonica players. It helps to know the chords. It jump starts a lot of conversations, and it bypasses a lot of like this. You'll see a lot of this at open jams too. People finding their root, and then they just... Right? And if you're a harmonica player, the note on the harmonica says A, but that means you're playing E minor pentatonic, so it's pretty tricky. But we're going to go deeper into that, for example, like the key of C, the reason why the minor pentatonic works. We talked about it a lot today, but I can dive in deeper and make a lot more sense of it. So 1, chord tones. 2, minor pentatonic scale. You can do it over the 1 and the 4 chord, or you can shift everything up to the root of the 5 chord and play said minor pentatonic over that. 3, mix them up together, right? Major, you can play major C major over the C. You can play F major over the F. You can play G major over the G. Right? That's another way to look at it, but I like mixing them all together. And 4, something we didn't really dive in too much today, actually didn't dive in at all, listen to your favorite players. So now that you kind of have a baseline of what this is, go listen to like Eric Clapton, Have You Ever Loved a Woman? I know that's slow blues in C. You'll see him playing right here, right? What else is in C that I can think of? Tore Down, Eric Clapton in C. These are things that I'm just thinking of off the top of my head, but watch Stevie Ray Vaughan play. I mean, he's going to play probably Sky is Crying. Maybe he's around that spot. He's tuned to E flat, so it's a little different. You got to make sure you know your notes for that reason. Another reason to know your notes is because the key of E flat changes everything. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Hope you enjoyed Benny and the rest of the dogs barking in the middle of it, unless I was able to successfully edit all of that out. But the whole point of this channel is kind of just for like a raw sit-down guitar lesson. 44 minutes, that's pretty good. An actual lesson, 60 minutes, and there would be more back and forth, so I think we really covered it. Go out, you can check out my backing tracks at Regal Backing Tracks on YouTube. There's only that one in a few keys, but there's a million different blues backing tracks online. Just remember, the endings sometimes don't pan out. And you can do it in a shuffle, you can play the downbeat, you can play on the downbeat, you can play on the... There's so much to cover, I can't go into it. See you guys next time, thank you so much.